I really truly believe this summer is the official beginning of the Third Great Awakening in America. You know, it may have started a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 6 months in the future, but there's something brewing in this country that is tremendously, powerfully good. I want to go to Alveda, and we were talking about how people are silenced by really subtly calling them stupid.
Yeah.
Explain.
Especially in the African American community, but not limited to that, I'm sure. But even in the days of Frederick Douglass, he astounded people, and I know he was challenged. A man like you can't think like this, and where does this come from? My own son was in college, and he was told, he wrote a paper, and his professor, an African American professor, said, "Where did you get this? Who wrote this? Did you get it off the internet? You could not have possibly thought this way." And then when I heard that you were accused of not writing it, and they asked that your parents or someone else help you to write your paper, and you were told you didn't have the ability to think deeply and to reason. And that's what's happening now with all these movements to silence our young people, to say to them, you can't think, you have to think according to what's on television, what's in the textbooks, whether it's true or not. And if you're coming up with something else, this can't be you. Where are you getting this?
And that's what's made us unique as Americans. We've always thought differently. And because we didn't have the guilds, you didn't have these, you didn't have to belong to the right club, the right thing.
Didn't de Tocqueville say that sort of when he came in?
Yeah, he did.
So,
well, and I think that plays back into when you were talking, just like with history, when they try and get rid of our greats and get rid of the history, because if you don't have something to look up to, then you say, then you look to government in place of it, them constantly trying to say, you can't achieve unless government helps you to achieve. Instead of saying, but these guys did it, they were slaves, and 5 years later they were senators, and, and that idea that you don't have to just stay within your class system, just because your mother, your father might have been, a drug dealer or a seamstress or whatever, that you can achieve anything that you want because this is America. And I think that's one of the most important things they're trying to suppress.
What happened, though, in the educational system? What's preventing our children from thinking, from writing, from learning? We're spending more money per capita, especially in public schools, but it's not producing. What happened?
Well, they took out the power of the parents, and they took out Jesus Christ, and and even power of a lot of the teachers. The teachers' unions came in, and they have all the control. So there's a lot of times the parents. We talk a lot about this. They say, "Oh, parents don't have enough. They don't do anything to help their kids achieve." But then as soon as you have parents that come in and advocate for their children,
and they call the social workers on the parents. They must be abusing their child.
So which one is it? So they took out Jesus, and you can, the more that they take out God, the more government.
So taking out Jesus, you mean in '63 when they took prayer out of schools?
Taking prayer out of school,
and they just forbade the teachers or the kids to pray in school. You can't.
I have to tell you, I don't care if you believe it's Billy's Big Book of great stories or the Holy Bible. That is true. That is God's truth. It is the greatest pattern book out there. Every answer is there.
That's so true.
And it doesn't matter if it was written by God or by Billy. I have my opinion, and I'll be surprised if I get up to heaven and it's like, Billy, you wrote that book? But it is truly, and that's what we used to school kids would read.
It was a real textbook.
It was the textbook. And so you learn the lessons and the patterns of society. Everybody, it kills me, man. I want to slap upside the head some of these stupid college people who think they're coming up with new ideas.
Right.
This communism thing, really?
Right.
Really? They think these are all new ideas. You think that, what's happening now, where they're going after the churches, and what's happening at Wall Street, this is from 1771.
That's nice.
It is the same answer.
Yes.
And you can see if you would just go back and track, and that's why I think we've lost it. It's not just taking prayer out of school, it's taking out the history lesson of the Bible.
You know, one thing about that, too, and I've been studying this, I need to study it more, but Jubilee. So that means every 7 years or every 50 years, or there are patterns to it. And so here now, you know, racism is emerging or re-emerging. It's never been gone, but it's back. And so sometimes people will try to justify, well, there were slaves in the Bible. I said, yeah. I said, however, the Bible actually says that if people are descended from Israel, which the black slaves here are, because we came from the West Coast and we had gotten there from Israel, every 7 years you have to let the slaves go. You have to give them land and gifts. And so I said, so if you're following the Bible now, so it's okay to have slaves, why didn't you let us go after 7 years? And why didn't you give us everything the Bible said? And so, and you know, the other amazing thing, Glenn, especially with you and Peter, here being Caucasian, anybody that says it's wrong to mistreat anybody because of their skin color, and so don't abort the babies or don't cause the kids to drop out of school and all this, and they say, well, you're a racist. You're trying to take away rights. Well, no, you're abolitionist. You're not trying to hurt people. You're trying to help people. And now the abolitionists in the 21st century is not even on skin color. I mean, we're all abolitionists now. We're rescuing the babies, and the Underground Railroad is the pregnancy care center. So we don't, you know, if we're accused of being racist, we answer back, no, we are abolitionists, repentant abolitionists. And that's who we are today.
You know what, it's for everything. It's not just pro-life. It is, our children are being, because of what you pointed out, our children are being enslaved.
And it doesn't matter what color.
It doesn't matter what color anymore.
Right. Right.
Just, you are slaves. You're slaves to the banks, to the debt that we all have. I mean, nowhere in the Bible or Billy's Big Book does it say, hey, rack up a lot of debt and buy stuff. That's a bad idea. That's not what the Lord wants for us.
In the death care industry that's giving us all this food that's hurting us, and then we don't know what's wrong with our bodies, and they won't tell the truth, and it's just too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
You know, there's an interesting part of Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail where he talks about the process of preparing for the nonviolent protests that they were going about. And so I don't get them wrong, I'm just going to read them here. He says, first of all, there's a collection of facts to determine whether injustice exists.
Wow.
Education. You got to know, before you get involved, know your stuff. He says, second, negotiation. You have to open up communication. Can you talk to anybody? Will they talk to you? There's no negotiation, you know where you stand.
Okay, so wait a minute. So injustice exists. This is the way to see if there's injustice, if there's oppression, right? Okay, so the first one again is?
The first one is collection of the facts. You just take a look.
You just go and look at everything.
Go look at everything.
6 steps of conflict resolution, nonviolent conflict resolution. That's where he's going with that. Go ahead.
The second thing then is that you sit down and you go negotiate and say, now wait a second. I think the facts show that there's been oppression here. Let's talk about this. Can we get to anywhere and rectify it? And this is what's interesting. He says, third, there's self-purification. And this is the part of what I don't think we know anything about today. And when he explains that, he says, when people are getting ready to march, he said, you're going to get cursed at, you're going to be kicked, they're going to let the dogs on you, they're going to take the hoses out, they're going to maybe throw bombs at you, you're going to end up in jail. Are you ready for that? Are you ready? Are you pure enough inside to stand for what you believe, knowing
And not become them.
That's right.
That's the discipline you're talking about.
That's what you and I talked about.
That's discipline.
That needs to be taught, and I asked Alveda, I don't know if she'll do it for me, but I've asked her to talk, because she did it, she lived it, to teach this to the American people, again, the discipline that he's talking about here. Are you prepared? Because I'll never forget, Alveda, when you talked about how, you were left to rot in jail a night.
Yeah. My dad let me stay there because my girlfriend was being hurt. And so we weren't supposed to break ranks. The same steps you're talking there. And then there was a whole pattern for how to peacefully demonstrate. So I broke ranks to go and rescue her and ended up in a tussle with the officers. And I was arrested. But my dad and mother, because Dad had already gone home, and it was on television. So Dad said, I need you to stay in there tonight. I called to see if they come get me. He says, no, think about what being nonviolent really means. So that's how serious that was.
Wow.
Very serious. And from that day on, and that's why I have it now, if someone, you know, I almost don't get angry. I can get close, but I won't curse. I won't strike back. I won't step out of the love formula. I won't do it.
Right.
See, this is so
I will not do
important.
it.
That was just so important to Martin Luther King. It was the reason why he won. And it's the reason why Gandhi won.
That's right.
I mean, it's the reason why
Exactly.
Jesus won.
Exactly.
So it was so important. Now, the powerful and the elite in Washington are saying that Martin Luther King would have been at Occupy Wall Street. I just don't.
Absolutely not. Look at
can't
the
even
formula,
imagine
because
that.
we'll get to those last 3 steps. There's 6 of them, but Occupy Wall Street, the people are cursing, pulling their underwear down in public, sleeping all over the ground and leaving garbage everywhere. None of that ever happened in a peaceful, nonviolent, God-centered, Christ-centered movement. And so really, the real occupation comes from those who are walking in love. Not being stirred to anger,
Right.
not out of our frustration, we're just going to go down here and tear the city up.
But that's the hard part, is getting when, out of compassion, you want to help your girlfriend,
Yeah.
or when somebody is just so enraged and so much hate in your face, you have righteous indignation that has got to build up, and it's only God that can get rid of that.
And see, that was a real process if I had abided by that, because we all were supposed to fall in rank around her in a circle, and they can't penetrate that circle. But I decided I could be her savior. I could be her hero. And that was a mistake. If I had stayed within the whole structure, then I would not have had to spend a night
Never
in jail.
go in to save somebody alone.
Because there's a pattern for that.
Do you have the rest of them? Do you want to go through them?
The one that I come to at the end, he mentions these 4 dominant ones. I know there are more, but then he says, and then direct action.
Yeah.
In other words, he says, we are not just people that just lunge in and we're going to change everything. This is really a studied process. And I think as we look at all the things we think we need to change because of injustice, whether it's in the schools or otherwise, part of it is, do we really know what the issues are? Have we really talked it through? And then have we gotten ourselves ready? Have we counted the cost? Are we prepared? And then we engage and we stand up and speak. So I don't know how that all works out, but he's an inspiration for, I think, all of us, because we do need to stand in. It's like the signers when they came to the Declaration of Independence. As they were signing it, taking their deep breaths, what are we doing here? They said, like Benjamin Franklin, we better hang together, we're going to hang separately.
That's exactly.
And
Yeah.
we have to come together now and say we're all going to stand up for what really matters. And that's why we care about what happened in New York in a classroom. We're trying to be extremists for love. We should love this concern, because free speech is my concern. It's your concern. It's all of our concern.
Education. If your family fails, my family fails.
That's right.
You know,
That's
we can't. You know, it doesn't mean we're all responsible for each other. You know, to make up for you know, if you're not doing your job, I can only do so much for you. You know, and that's where the system comes in and says, hey, well, no, we've got to equalize. No, we all have to. But I have to care.
Right.
And I have to be part and help you in your struggle, and you help me in my struggle.
Right. And that's